It's a beautiful Wednesday, of course, the very, very last day of this month of July. We are trusting that you are finishing this month in a strong point. And karibu sana to the Leadership Wednesday edition. Of course, you know when it is Wednesday from 10:30 to 12, we discuss matters leadership. Of course, looking at ways and also coming up with the ways, giving also an opportunity to interact with us on how you think we can make the leadership of our society better and better. Of course, our country of 47 counties and of course in all other spheres as far as leadership is concerned. And of course, we always say it all rises and falls on leadership, and therefore we all have a part to play in ensuring that we get it right as far as leadership is concerned. And we are very, very grateful that you are keeping us company, make it as interactive as possible. Now, today we have a very, very interesting topic, and I know this one affects so many of our viewers, especially those who are in learning institutions. Today we want to look at this particular subject: the role of learning institutions, the role of learning institutions in nurturing good leaders. The role of learning institutions in nurturing good leaders. Now, do they have a role to play as far as nurturing leaders is concerned? Can they be counted upon to ensure that we get great leaders from the learning institutions that we have? Of course, we're talking about schools, maybe high schools. We are talking about colleges. We're talking about universities. And for purposes of this particular conversation, colleges and universities play a very pivotal role as far as shaping the leaders are concerned. So that is the discussion that you're going to have today. And we have guests that are coming from education background, or of course what we can call the academic background. They are the ones who are interacting with the students. We want to find out from them what do they think about the role of these institutions as far as coming up or bringing out quality leaders is concerned. We'll be joining them in a short while in this particular discussion. I have Dr. Ndungu from Masai Mara University, is a lecturer there, and also governance and political analyst, and I also have an educationist, and also the principal Musketeers Institute of Science and Technology, that is Bwana Paul Kamau. The two gentlemen will help us shape this particular conversation. And we have a question that we've also put out for you so that you can interact with us as much as possible. The question that we are asking you is, how can leadership values, or how can good leadership values be instilled among students? How can good leadership values be instilled among students? Now you know the drill. You can begin to give us your reflections on these. 23814, that is our short code number or platform. And of course, WhatsApp 0721 105 105, 0721 105 105, or catch us live on our social media pages, that is Facebook, MBCI TV, and YouTube, that is MBCI TV Official. As we continue with the program, we'll be glad to also see how you'll be responding to this discussion. But of course, I'm also with my colleague, Bwana Paul Kagi. Good to see you. A very good morning.
Yes, a very good morning once again, and welcome to the leadership program. And usual, today we are here to speak about the matters of leadership. But today we have a very interesting topic whereby we want to see whether our young people have a space in pushing for the leadership of this nation. So welcome to the show as we go on. My name is Paul Kagi once again, and welcome to today's program.
Absolutely. And of course, Kagi, before we get into the general analysis, let me just give our two guests just a moment, a minute each, to basically just say hi to our viewer. Then of course we'll get back to them with the nitty-gritties of our discussion. Karibuni sana. I'll start with the closest to me, Bwana Paul Kamau. Karibu.
Thank you very much, Bwana Mwala. Viewers, a very good morning. My name is Paul Kamau. I'm from Musketeers Institute of Science and Technology, that is based here in Nakuru. Thank you very much and welcome.
Thank you so much. Karibu sana. Hope you're growing leaders there.
Yes, we do.
And I'm also having Dr. Ndungu. Karibu.
Thank you very much, Mangicho Mola and Paul Kagi, for having me on board. Thank you very much, our viewers. most welcome to today's discussions. It's very fascinating.
Thank you so much, Daktari. It's also a pleasure to have you on this particular program. Remember, we also have the other segments. We'll have opinions and also some views from our from Kenyans across the street. Our reporter Celeste Cheminingo always does that, and of course he's prepared something for us. You can also look out for prominent faces. We have something from my colleague Paul Kagi. We have Know Your Constituency. We'll know where we are going today, and of course the leadership quote is also ready for you. But for now, let's see what is also making headlines across this particular 1 week, Kagi.
All right, and I think the first item we are going to check is the president is coming close to finalizing his work to put in place his cabinet, because tomorrow the 5 CSs will be going through a vetting by the members of parliament. And according to the program set by the Speaker of the National Assembly, Mr. Wetangula, is that Honorable Kithure Kindiki will be the first to be vetted by the members of parliament. And we believe this time around, as the members of parliament are going to handle this matter, some of them have really vowed to do the right job. And if you could remember, Mangicho, in the last, I think when the president was inaugurating his government, and the members of parliament were doing their vetting, there were a lot of noise on how this job was being done. And this time around, they have said they are going to vet these CSs the right way. Okay. And ours is to wait and see whether what they are saying is what they are going to do. So the first one to be vetted tomorrow will be the nominee for the CS Internal Security, Kithure Kindiki, followed by the Health CS nominee, Deborah Barasa, and then Alice Wahome, who was also in the previous cabinet, will be vetted tomorrow. And also we have the Julius Ogamba, who will be taking over the Ministry of Education. Also the new nominee for the Defense Ministry, Soipan Tuya, will be vetted by the Parliament tomorrow, and the program is going to continue in the next days of the week. So we expect also the President to inaugurate his government officially, and we are also aware yesterday the President announced 2 nominees. One is the Attorney General, who gave a position to the woman. I think the president was determined to give this position to a woman. Yes. If you could remember last time, she gave the former CS this position, who declined and requested the president to give him a lesser demanding position, which he did. And also we have the new ESC CS, Madam Askul Moore. So I think the package is full. By the end of this week, next week, the governments will be up and running. Yeah. So our job is to follow up and see whether the legislators will be doing the right job this time around.
Absolutely, Kagi. I think Kenyans' eyes are on Parliament committee that will actually be doing the vetting. Of course, we know the other time round, maybe when we had the president coming up with his list, yes. I think Parliament just went, it was like just rubber stamping, and most people were of the opinion that so long as the president has already come up with the name, there is nothing that the parliamentarians can do about those particular names. Now, of course, maybe we can give credit to the president in as much as maybe majority of Kenyans wanted this particular cabinet to be devoid of any politicians. But at least, Kage, I think there are some names there that maybe we've not really related with the politics. Yes. And therefore maybe we want to look forward to them actually serving Kenyans and actually maybe being in a position to show that they are actually deserving of those particular positions.
There's one question that I think everybody will be very key to hear from the speaker. You could remember last time he was asking every CS nominee, what is your net worth? Yeah. And for the CSs who have made a comeback, everybody will be interested to hear their net worth, you know, whether it has grown or declined, and interrogation on how it has it has really grown.
Sure.
It will be a very interesting question to hear from the Speaker of the National Assembly.
Absolutely, it will be vital to get the rich background about them, so that at least Kenyans can be assured that the ones that will actually be approved really deserve to be in those positions, and of course they will work for Kenyans.
Yes, one more item is that the office of the Deputy President is under pressure, and there are two things which are happening here in his office. Number one, there has been a looming impeachment motion, of which we don't know who is preparing it. We have not heard who is this person who is doing it, but there's a looming impeachment motion for the Deputy President, and members from the Kenya Kwanza, especially those who support him, have come out to say that they are ready for the impeachment motion. And many of them also are asking from the other side of the Kenya Kwanza, what is the position of the President regarding to this motion for the Deputy President? We are waiting to see whether they are, you know, last time there was a member of parliament who was collecting signatures, who was also planning for the same, but this time around, these people are not coming out to tell us, no, I'm the one who is proposing the motion, and they start collecting enough signatures from the members of parliament to qualify to perform the motion. Away from that, I know this is a story which is going to be developing the whole of the week and even the weekend and a week to come. Yesterday there were some activities that were being done in his office, whereby the DCI officers were probing some of the close allies and officers in the Deputy President office for an alleged link to the Gen Z protest. There has been mentions of some members from his office. They have been activating those protests, and this onslaught is a little bit shaking the office of the Deputy President, but our work is to wait and see the outcome of the DCI office on the probe on this matter. But in a nutshell, the office is under very, very severe pressure.
Okay, yeah, I know, Kagi, this is a story and this is a development that is quite disappointing, because I believe as a country we want a situation whereby we are seeing the presidency moving in the same direction. We want to imagine that what we saw between the current president, who was then the deputy president, and of course the former president Uhuru Kenyatta, most people would think that this is not something that would want to happen or would actually look forward to happen again between now the president and his deputy. So the things that maybe we are hearing are not good, and if there was any iota of truth, I think the earlier the better it be sorted. Let's see what is it that maybe needs to be done, because it will basically now continue to heighten maybe the political tensions in the country, and also maybe even slow down development. And of course, you know, I believe that those maybe who have different interests or particular or partisan interests, there are those maybe who want these particular differences, if at all they are there, maybe to continue. It doesn't augur well for the country, and we just want to hope maybe these are not things that maybe have any solid ground, and we want to wish and hope that the two will continue to steer this particular country in the direction that they were mandated to.
Yes, maybe one more item. Yesterday there was a report given by the president, which was being called the Presidential Task Force on the Religious Matters, which really gave their own proposals on how to manage our religious activities in the country, which was led by Mutava Musimi, who was once upon a time the chair, the Secretary General of the NCCK. And one of the draft measures they are proposing is that there must be a draft law to be able to give penalties to churches that engage in politics. And for the last, I think, 5 years, church has been very much vocal in matters of politics. And this report is proposing that churches must be controlled in terms of playing politics of the country, especially endorsing politicians for political positions. This report is really putting a stop on this matter. And one of the proposals is, if you're found guilty of this offense, you'll be fined 500,000 shillings or maybe 6 months imprisonment or both. The second one, they want the team also to propose the vetting of all religious bodies in the country.
Wow.
Okay?
Yeah.
And many, many others. Yeah.
Of course, that one I know is a conversation that will also really get deeper, especially in the religious circles. Of course, seeing those dynamics and how maybe they are going to change, how maybe the religious sector has actually been operating.
Right.
Thank you so much for that, Kagi. And of course, I know those are issues that Kenyans will continue to be debating about and also to be conversing about. And of course, that is what we encourage you, because we need to have a conversation as these matters affect us. Now, let us get into our heart and soul of our conversation for this particular morning. Just as we had hinted, we are looking at the role of learning institutions in nurturing good leaders in the country. What is their role? And of course, just like I had introduced, we have two gentlemen, our guest for today, with rich expertise as far as education and learning institutions are concerned. That is Bwana Paul Kamau, is a principal, Musketeers Institute of Science and Technology, and also we have Daktari Ndungu from Masai Mara University, and also governance and also a political analyst. Remember, the question that we've put out for you is, how can good leadership values be instilled among students? 23814, that is our shortcut platform. And of course, you can also catch us live on our Facebook and YouTube pages. Facebook MBCI TV, YouTube, that is MBCI TV official. This particular juncture, karibuni tena wageni wetu for this particular discussion. Let me just start with Bwana Kamau. I know this is a very, very interesting topic, and we'll have divergent views even as we continue. But let's just begin with this from where you sit, because we have a sizable number of Kenyans who may want to argue that the leaders that we have, especially in the elective post, cannot be trusted, or at some particular point they fail to actually show or they fail to win the confidence of their voters, the confidence of the electorate, the confidence of the people they represent. Can this be attributed to their background in the learning institutions?
Thank you very much. Mogicho, you know that I'm not a politician, and sometimes maybe I may not indulge so much into the issues of politics. Though I believe a country like ours, Kenya, is learned through politics. And I would not agree that politicians are not leaders. Because for you to be a politician, elected politician, that is maybe a member of county assembly, a member of parliament, a president, a governor, and so on, you must have shown some leadership qualities. And these leadership qualities starts maybe early, or maybe it depends on the people who are vetting you, because these guys are normally vetted by their constituents or the people who are voting them. I would agree that leadership qualities, sometimes they come all the way from the school. But why we are saying that some of these leaders who are in politics cannot be trusted, it is because they have been corrupted. Their good morals have been corrupted, maybe by power or maybe by money. Because unfortunately, in our country or in Africa generally, when people get into politics, they go there, they look for money. And as they look for this money, they become extremely corrupt. And that is why you find that now people start losing trust. Because I was wondering, why was somebody elected to office, and then 1 year, 2 years down the line, people are not trusting the same person? So actually, the issue of leadership, or why our leaders are not trusted by the people who voted them, it is not because they are not good people. It is not good because they were not nurtured. It is because maybe they got into those offices, they got power that they were not used to. They got into those offices, they got money that they were not used to, and that made them to become something different. And when somebody starts now getting deep into issues of power, into issues of money, into issues of corruption, they become completely different people. I'm surprised because, like in the current parliament, one of the parliamentarians was I mentored him, and I knew that he was a very good. I'll not mention his name, but I know he was very good when he was in school. I used to go there and talk to him when he was in Form 1, and I thought he was a very good leader. He was a prefect. He became a head boy in school, and he was very nice. But when he got into Parliament, now you see everybody else is saying this is a guy who is misleading us. So what I would want to say is, can we try to bring back the morals of our society? And the only way that we can be able to do this is by following our culture. You know, we have moved so much away from our culture and even our school culture. Last week I was in Starry Boy Center, and I had gone there to follow up on some issues. There were some activities on St. John's Ambulance, and I have gone there several times, and I realized that even in that school there are some things that are changing, that are making now people start believing you have to push people so hard, you have to do things so hard for you to be able to be successful. That is the unfortunate part. We need to like the learning institutions, I think we need to go back to also start reminding our people that you don't have to push people so hard, you don't have to have so much, you don't have to be so corrupt so that you can become a leader. And that is why you see, like the young people recently, those who are currently in school or others who have just left school, they started agitating for changes. And that is why they are saying, like now, you see the cabinet that has been brought, they're saying, okay, as you are agitating, we don't want to be given those positions ourselves. That's what they were saying. But we want people that we can trust. Now my question is, where are we going to get these people that they can trust from? Because and I don't want to say that because maybe like Kithure Kindiki is being vetted tomorrow. Is Kithure Kindiki a politician or is he a leader? You know, there is a thin line between who is a leader and who is a politician.
Thank you.
And allow me to mention this before maybe I leave. There is something Bwanakagi has talked about being vetted. I'm wondering why those people should be vetted again. They were just vetted 1.5 years down the line. So can this activity be made to be what it means? People to be vetted seriously. We not asking people how much are you worth. I can say anything. If you ask me now, I can say I'm worth anything. Have I been followed to make sure what exactly is what I'm saying true?
Thank you so much, Principal. Of course, we'll come back with actually still more on that. Very interesting perspectives there. Just to bring Dr. into on these. From where you see, Dr. the issue of trust deficit among a larger percentage of our leaders, do you think it reflects maybe the nature of things in the learning institutions?
Allow me to mention that our leaders are a reflection of the society. You've mentioned about trust deficit. I'm in agreement with you that our social fabrics is questionable. Mwalimu has mentioned about our morals, our ethics, and what we believe in. Leadership, it's the desire to influence and to do actually what you'd want others to do. But you find out that education institutions are not just knowledge containers and achievements. They are also makers of tomorrow. Structures are in place that nurtures leaders, that identifies leaders and nurtures leaders. But you find that the question that probably we need to ask ourselves, why do we get into leadership? Because if the intrinsic force is different, then you will change along the line. So if you want to be a servant leader, you will not vie for that very position. Probably the member of parliament, women representative, the senators, members of the county assembly, it depends with why are you getting into leadership. But the driving force in our society is what you get out of that leadership. And I'm one person who believes that we still have remnants. People that are guided by principles, people that are guided by what they believe in and ideologies. But if the intrinsic force is to acquire wealth, then we begin from wrong footing.
And actually, maybe one would therefore ask, where is the source of this intrinsic force that in this particular case you're saying is unfortunate, is evil?
The desire to get rich. The desire, that is what I'm calling the intrinsic force. The reason as to why you are getting into leadership is you want to acquire wealth. And that is where there is a paradigm shift. Desire, there is one who would want to be a leader to serve. There is one who would want to be a leader to control resources. And by, one gets richer. And that's why I'm saying that systems are in place. Our education institutions have structures that actually mentors the character of an individual into leadership, inculcates leadership skills. But you find that once somebody gets into leadership, a different meaning comes all together. The desire to get wealthy, the desire to control resources, and that is why I blame our social fabrics. And the issue of leadership does not begin at educational institution, even at the family institution. How do we bring our children? Are you the kind of a person you tell your child, if you do this, I'll do this. If you become number one, I'll buy you this. You begin from a wrong footing. What parents ought to do is to emphasize to their children that this is for their own benefit. Education is supposed to prepare a character that at the right time, that this individual is able to produce that which is good to the society, to the community, and also to the family setup. So where we have lost our hope, where we have lost confidence and trust with our leaders, it's the meaning that changes all over time. They say that when power gets into your head, you become totally a different person. If you want to compete with the rest that have been in power, you want to acquire more wealth to be like them, then the meaning changes. But if you are a servant leader, and let me tell you, in Kenya, servant leaders are never loved. And if you are strict and if you would want to go and campaign without using resources, you will not become popular. That's why I'm talking about our social fabrics is questionable. And we cannot blame on our education institutions. Our education institutions have got the relevant structures to identify and to develop a leader.
Yeah. Wow, thank you so much, Daktari. Just before we take a short break, maybe just in a minute, Bwana Kamau Principal, when you're talking about this social fabric which Daktari has actually put up very well, and we wanted to find out at what particular point, therefore, are we having this disconnect? Because if the learning institutions maybe are playing their role of actually coming out, nurturing these very, very good leadership qualities, how comes they are not strong enough to ensure that these people that you are bringing from these institutions can carry these qualities all through the leadership?
Maybe if I pick from where Daktari left about the social fabric. First of all, Magicho, when your parents were telling you to go to school, they were telling you to go to school and do what? That is where we should start. Because when we are so much obsessed with the resources, we are telling somebody, work hard so that you can become rich. So that you become rich and do what? That is the problem. Because what is the definition of a rich person? What is the definition of a resourceful person? I had an argument the other day with a person. There is a professor who was passing where we were. And somebody was saying that, you see that guy, he's a professor, but he's poor. Then I told him, come on, let us discuss. He's a professor and he's poor. What do you mean? What is your definition of poverty? That is now the problem that we have. Because these people, when they're in school, we are trying to train them and teach them to become useful in the society. Even maybe I may use the example of Muscatias Institute of Science and Technology. One of our main goal is to train people on how to communicate. You see, like communication is part of what makes a leader. Because how do you communicate to the people? Because first of all, if you're that person who will tell people something, to make them happy, and then tomorrow when they follow up, they see you have not done anything.
But if you can just allow me and kind of don't lose your line of thought, we just want to take a short commercial break. Then you come back as you pick up from that particular point, and of course my colleague Kagi will also be chipping in on the same. You're still watching us on the Leadership Wednesday edition, a very, very candid conversation we're having here on the role of learning institutions in nurturing good leaders. So we are coming back with much more on the second part of this particular program. Don't go far away.
MBCI Television, transforming lives.
Ndama ni mtoto wa ng'ombe. Kichengo ni mtoto wa nani?
Hey, y'all, come look at this.
Ati nini?
Kichengo.
Kuna kitu inaitwa kijego? Najua mjego tu.
Penye miti?
Kuna baridi. Kuna baridi.
Nataka unikamilishie methali. Penye miti?
Panamanki. Panamanki.
IQ yako iko wapi? IQ yako iko wapi?
IQ. Mimi sina.
Call Collins, call, I'm calling call. Rudia mara tatu mbio mbio.
Collins, Collins calls. Collins, Collins calls. Collins, Collins calls.
Next on
Usiniulize kwani mtu vile simu yako huwa inaitana ama vile inalia.
Hair pull cream for your natural hair growth. Nywele 500 customer, mea nywele 500 customer, mea nywele 500 customer.
Tunatafuta mheshimiwa, amekuwa summoned wala hapii kwenye koti. Sawa sawa madam.
Am I looking like mheshimiwa?
Kwa hivyo hata vitu zenye tunatumia kwa hii nyumba hujui kwenye zinatokana.
Oh, okay. Kwani ni unapeana na huyo mashuga mami? Kwani hao ndio umeweka? Bali wacha nifanye hivi, wacha niende, wacha nikuache.
Kuna ya mafuta hapo, kuna ya boga.
Hii.
Enda ununue.
Chukua wewe ukanunue nayo hiyo mafuta unasema.
Kama hutaki kutumia hizo pesa, wacha na enda upike kenye utapika. Atukule, tunataka kula. Tuko njaa.
We, ni nini? Utaniua.
Unanipea ama unipei?
Amekataa.
Ndio hebu kuja uone.
Ngoja, hawa wawili.
Tuwape watusaidie.
Ngoja, wamekataa.
Kwanza na tiki.
Jana mzigo. Jana mzigo.
Tuwape tena. You have to getting along with but this one.
Kuna mtu amekuja kuua, please mvute kasi. Please nakusihi tu.
It's Josh. Utazida.
Kama unajipenda, hebu vute hiyo takataka yote kwa sisi.
Is it true?
Nimesema kama unajipenda.
Waridi jangwani.
MBCI Television, transforming lives.
Welcome back, and indeed we are so grateful and delighted you're still with us on this Leadership Wednesday edition right here on your favorite channel, MBCI TV. A very thought-provoking and also illuminating conversation we're having right here on the role of learning institutions in nurturing good leaders. Do you think they have a role? Actually, the question that we've asked you is, how do you think, or how can learning institutions instill good values, good leadership values among their students? Continue giving us those reflections on 23814 shortcode platform. And of course, you can also catch us on our social media pages. Facebook is MBCI TV, and of course YouTube, that is MBCI TV official. And of course, I've already seen that those who are already saying they are following us. Thank you so much. Anthony Munene saying, I'm Anthony Munene, Musketeers Institute of Science and Technology. Today's topic is amazing. Tuned in mpaka tamati. Thank you so much. Then you also have Mwangi Wairagu saying yes, they have. Thank you so much. We also have Judith Mateto saying you are watching. Thank you so much. We'll of course be reading the others. I still believe you still have your line of thoughts on what you're saying just before I cut you. Yeah, maybe you can just move on with that.
I'm not sure. I'm not really I remember what I was talking about. But actually, what I was trying to say is we need to go back to where we start now training people on the issues of leadership. Tari had said that leadership is about influence. You influence people to do what? Because actually that is where now the disconnect is. Because if you're a leader, when you become a leader, you are supposed to influence people towards the right direction, towards the right things, like integrity, for example, honesty. And that is what I was saying, like, for example, if you have trained a student on communication, for example, how are you training them to communicate? When they communicate, can people see integrity in them? Can they be trusted from what they say? Because actually sometimes the problem that we have with our politicians is that what they say is not what they do. And this happens because every politician, ask them, when they go to learn for those political seats, they use a lot of money. Because as he was saying, from our society, people believe for you to be elected, you must be having money. They look at how much do you have, how much are you giving us. Then when this person has given you that, what do you expect him to do, when he or she to do when he goes to that parliament or to that county assembly? They go there and try to accumulate money for themselves. And when they start now focusing on that, they lose the initial leadership, the initial leadership calling. For example, if you look at a school setting, we also have leaders, like the student leaders. When the student leaders are being elected, they are being elected to agitate for the good living standards of the other student. But assuming, for example, if it is an institution like Masai Mara University, a student has been elected, very well, they want to agitate for the other students. But when they are elected, then they go to the Vice Chancellor. The Vice Chancellor gives them some amount of money and tells them, now you no longer have to think about the other students, think about the institution. You're getting that? Now that is where we lose the meaning of the whole issue about leadership. If it's a place like Musketeers Institute of Science and Technology, when a student leader has been elected, the only thing that the principal should do is to ensure that they allow those students to communicate. The only thing that the principal should do is to ensure that those leaders are trained on leadership, especially on communication, especially on integration, on integrity, so that as they do the leadership thing, they don't focus on what they get. Because if I call those students and I give them something, do you expect them to go and agitate for the rights of the students? They're not going to do that. Unfortunately, that is what happens in our politics. Because when politicians are going there, they are going with one aim, only to get money, only to become rich. That is what takes them there. And that is why you find somebody like the one I was with saying that this is a professor, a poor professor. Because the resources that are in this professor cannot be seen, because he's driving a jalopy. He cannot be able to live in a good neighborhood because of what maybe he is earning. But the resources that are in this person, the research this person has done, The changes that this person can bring to the society is not counted as riches. We look at riches, at how many buildings do you have in CBD? How many vehicles do you have? What type of vehicle are you driving? What neighborhood are you living in? So these are the things that we need to start. Now, there's some things that are taught in school. I think they should be removed. And then we start now training our students on things that will help them about our culture, things that will make us have that fiber, whatever the doctor is calling the social fiber, so that we can be able to have the good morals that will help even people when they become politicians. They become good. We don't elect people based on what they have. But you can have very good ideas today. Then you go and you go back to where you come from and tell them, now I want to fight for member of parliament, for example, so that I can be able to help you. You know, like the role of a member of parliament is registration, isn't it? But do they do that? We normally measure them, how many buses have they bought for the schools? Is that their work? How many roads have they built? That is not their work. Their work is registration. So that they can go there and make good laws that are going to help our country. Absolutely. But do we get it right? We don't get it right because from when we just start thinking about going to parliament, or going to county assembly, or becoming a governor, somebody start thinking of how much can I steal from the people so that I can make myself more richer. Okay. The people say is when the leadership is wrong, the people in front there is wrong, we shall never get it right. And that is why I think what will help us in our country is when we shall have a total paradigm shift, so that we stop looking at leadership as a means of getting riches.
Of course, and of course, yes. Will tell us how Musketeers Institute of Technology can help us to get that paradigm shift.
Yes.
First.
I think what the principal is saying is very, very key. You have talked about the issue of preparing the school leadership, whether in the tertiary institutions or universities. But I could point out that we have many leaders today who are members of parliament, who are senators, and if you look at their history, they were university leaders. It can easily tell us that if we nurture our young people right from the institutions, they can become good leaders. Let's talk about curriculum, because you come from the institutions. I think you could remember the presentation by Senator Kajwang the other day when the Gen Zs were pushing for their agendas, that one of the problems that we're experiencing as a nation is coming from our institutions, especially the high school. The issue of the set books they are doing can really tell you the kind of information we have fed our young people in their mind is what now is maturing at this time around. I was talking to, after that presentation by Kajwang, I was talking with some young people to verify whether that is true. And they confirmed that the state books they do in the high school, I don't want to use this term, but allow me to use it, they are very poisonous in terms of pushing for their agendas, making them to see the picture of our leaders and politics. And therefore, I would like to hear from you, having come from the institutions of higher learning, whether don't you think it is important for us to come up with a good curriculum tailored majorly on trying to preparing and modeling a good crop of young people? Those who want to follow leadership, we can pick some from there, instead of allowing to have a freestyle form of maybe training them to become leaders. What the Gen Zs are doing right now can easily tell you there's something they are trying to look for which is not there. There's a void that we have not been able to seal.
Maybe I mentioned something before we come there. Mr. Kagi, when you say that the books are poisonous, what do you mean? Because when I read those books are telling people to agitate for their rights. What is wrong with people agitating for their rights? That is the question I would want to ask before I go to my class.
I think this one is my departure point from Paul Kangi, kwa sababu anasema fasihi ni kioo cha jamii. I began by saying that our leaders are our reflection. What is this that we read? We read in literature. We read what is happening in the society. I have a background in Kiswahili, and I will tell you that some of these set books are reflecting what our leaders are doing. It's not that we are radicalizing our learners. We are not. What simply we are telling them that whatever our leaders are doing is wrong. And because these leaders have the yesterday's mentality and trying to solve contemporary challenges with that mentality, they will not get it right. And now, what do we train in educational institutions? We train critical thinking and problem-solving skills. What is this that I'm talking about? Critical thinking. That before you make an informed decision, you analyze a situation. You analyze a leader. Is this leader walking the talk? And if he's not walking the talk, through critical thinking skills, you now agitate for the rights. So what the Gen Zs are doing is a product of the education institution. And that is how literature and fasihi should be taught. Because we are in a complete society. It's trying to condemn those, in other words, I would want to say tubocratic leaders, those that only think about their stomach instead of thinking of the general welfare of the society. So there is no problem with our curriculum. Now look at this. In the same curriculum, for example, in history, we have leaders, we study about them. We study about Nelson Mandela. Everybody worldwide want to be associated with Nelson Mandela. If you want to think about Mahatma Gandhi, these are people that have had impact. When you think about people like Martin Luther King Jr., these are people that have made impact. Professor the late Wangari Maathai. Look at this. Mwai Kibaki, who is one of the most transformative leaders in our post-independent Kenya. So what do I want to say? Also in our curriculum, what do we teach? We teach our students, as Mwalimu mentioned, about communication skills. You cannot be a better leader without communicating your thoughts, without communicating your ideas. What is this that we teach in our curriculum? We expose our students or our learners into leadership opportunities through clubs. Look at what is happening now. There is a democratic environment in our institutions where our learners are supposed to elect their leaders democratically. So when we create this environment that is able to respect one another's opinion, the problem is that these leaders, especially political leaders, we lack political leaders because when we pass them through chapter 6 of the Constitution, most of our leaders do not pass the litmus test because the intent of their leadership is different. When you look at leadership as a means to an end, a means to getting riches, that's why we get it wrong. But our curriculum is, for example, now let's go to the CBE. What are we doing? That is called experiential learning. That we are able to expose our learners to projects. They are able to, through discussions, through teamwork, through group discussions, you identify a leader. That person, through critical thinking skills, becomes responsible. There's something that we call community-based activities and community service. Now, when I was growing up, I wanted to go to the school Mwalimu has mentioned, Starehe Boys Center. And when I go to Nairobi, I see students from Starehe Boys Center going for community service. If you would want to be an advocate, they go to Attorney General's office. That is community service. But do we expose our learners to this community service so that they can learn leadership while within the education institution? So I would not blame our curriculum.
I think we need to be very categorical here because I've talked about the issue of the critical thinking, whereby we train them on how to be independent and to jargon on some issues, but I want to be very specific on nurturing our leaders with our curriculum. For example, I have seen in our institutions they have units or lessons to do with drug abuse, HIV and AIDS, right from the primary school coming to high school and even to the middle level institutions and universities.
We have courses on leadership programs.
That is the question now, because if you come to our institutions, they don't have specific courses, trainings, or lessons on leadership. And you've talked about history. If you go to a high school, history is not a mandatory lesson.
One can do geography.
Yes.
I think, Paul, what you're mentioning...
Yeah, because, let me finish. If you want to, for example, you can go to our high school, even our colleges and university, you ask someone about Mahatma Gandhi, they don't know about that guy, or even Nelson Mandela. They just hear about Nelson Mandela, but they don't have any history about them. Therefore, there are many people, young people, who don't know the history of this nation. Because even in our institutions, they don't provide that curriculum. I'm not very sure, but I hear even you go to a country like US, in the institutions, it's mandatory you must be taught about the history of that country. So I think there's something that we are lacking here. We don't have a specific policy whereby we can start nurturing our young people to become specific leaders, because other units are collectively preparing us to live well in life. But specific leaders, we are not very keen on that.
So now, if I'm hearing Kagi well, and of course Mwalimu Bwana will contribute on that, before we also interact with Kenyans to also see what they are saying about this, that the leaders we are getting, it's like we're getting them by default, not by design.
Now, I want to, there is a point of convergence with Kagi's argument that some of the subjects that are taught in high school, for example, are not compulsory subjects. For example, when we think about history, because I have a history background, there is an entire topic on lives and contribution of Kenyan leaders. For example, if you mention Harry Duku, Jomo Kenyatta, if you mention people like Mwai Kibaki, Professor Wangari Maathai, I think I am in agreement that we need to have a concrete policy that actually makes leadership a compulsory either unit, either course. That is what is lacking. For example, if you go to religious studies, they teach about leadership, but it is not a compulsory subject. But when you go to United States of America, if you are an advocate, if you are you're training in medicine and surgery, you must be taught the history of United States of America. So what is wrong with Kenya teaching history of Kenya? If you're training as an engineer, if you're training as a newscaster, you get to understand, because they say that you cannot understand, you cannot actually get it vividly where you are going if you don't understand your past, because our past informs our present, and this present helps us to foretell the future wisely. So I want to believe that if we could have a concrete, but again, the issues of leadership are taught in Fasihi, in literature. And that is why you are seeing, because our young people have lost confidence with our leaders who have got the yesterday's mentality. They now take what they were taught in school, and now they say we have to get into where we are supposed to go.
Yes, what is your take? Do you think there is need for the repackaging, maybe, of how we offer leadership lessons? Because there are those maybe who might even argue it is not even examinable as a subject, and therefore maybe they look at it from the perspective of being maybe undermined or maybe underrated, and therefore maybe also giving an opportunity for these students when they're in the learning institutions, and as much as maybe in one particular point or another you talk to them about leadership, but remember they also see the leaders now in the national government or in the other spheres, and maybe what they are doing, and they are seeing it is very contradicting to what you are telling them at school.
I think personally, I would not really blame the curriculum. I would not blame the curriculum, and not blaming the curriculum does not mean that the curriculum cannot be repackaged to teach leadership. But what I'm saying is, for example, somebody, I don't know who, decided to bring those books in literature. And now somebody is imagining that those books are poisoning our children. Are you getting that? Now, that is now the point of departure. Because when we want to teach our children leadership, leadership is taught in every sphere. Dr. put it very clearly, that leadership is about influence. It is a book I was reading, Leader Without a Title. I don't know whether we have ever read that book. Everybody is a leader in their own capacity. What we need to start inculcating inculcating in our children or in our students is readership that has a foundation of truth. Readership that is founded on our culture. You see, when we talk about history, personally, I don't like the way history used to be taught, the way I was taught history in primary school. Somebody teaching me the person who discovered Mount Kenya. I think that is nonsense for me. The history that we are supposed to be taught is the history of our country. As he's saying, the Americans, if you ever met any American, they are really proud of their country. Because Americans say America first. America first, American first. Then other things follow. Can we be able to teach our children, we are Kenyans, Kenya first, then other things follow? Can we be able to brainwash our people, just as they have been brainwashed about their tribes? Because you can look at some people who are really brainwashed about their tribes, and they believe their tribe is the best. There are some people who have really been brainwashed in religion, and that is why you hear when they want to come with roles in the religion. Somebody who believes that his religion is the best. Can we be able to look for a way that we shall be able even to make our people believe in Kenya and say we are Kenyans? Absolutely. Kenya comes first. Now, and the only way we can be able to do that is by moving away from the past, you see, whereby like somebody was calling people choir masters, that people who just listen to the leader, the person who is there. For example, I run a school where we have students. When I say something and all the students say yes sir, or all the member of staff says yes sir, we will not go anywhere. We need a situation whereby there are people who can criticize what you're doing. There are people who do not agree with you, because you are not you're not the only one who knows everything. There are other people who knows things. You can find even your small children, there are things that they know that you don't know. So what we need to do is give people an open space where people can express themselves, and that is why you see the Gen Zs, they were trying to make sure that they are heard, because if you're not hearing me, you see, even like children in the houses, you see a child saying, I want to kill myself, so that you can start listening. You know, when they say, now I want to kill myself, you realize, hey, there is a problem. This problem started a long time ago, because we have that colonial mentality. You see that colonial mentality, whereby the colonialists knew the Africans need a cane. Somebody recently was saying these Gen Zs were not caned in schools. You wanted them to be caned. So what? Human beings are people who can reason. You don't have to cane them for them to do what you need to do. So we need to start moving away from a situation whereby we have leaders who don't want to listen. We need to move to a place whereby leaders can also listen. And when they listen, a country is better governed.
Actually, just kindly allow us to just take this particular segment where we'll interact with Kenyans and also see what they are saying. Then I'll give you an opportunity. If our director can now take us to the street, where our reporter Silas Chemininho also gets to talk to Kenyans on what they think about our subject of conversation, and I believe this is what he was able to gather. Let's have a look at it.
Tuambie majina yako, alafu tuambie, je, unadhani taasisi za elimu zinakuza vipaji vya uongozi, ama unadhani uongozi sana sana unakuzwa hapa nje, na kama ni shuleni zinakuzwa vipi?
Kwa vijini ya Warenga tunaonelea taasisi za elimu zinakuza juu pale shuleni tunapata mtu anapointiwa kama class prefect, unapointiwa kama leader wa environment. Saa unaanza kugrow kutoka hapo. Ukitoka huku nje at least uko na knowledge kiasi kutoka shuleni. Pale ambapo unapoambiwa uongee mbele ya wanafunzi unapata hiyo courage ya kuongea mbele ya watu wengi.
Leadership hukuzwa kuanzia high school ambapo maybe kuna head boy, kuna head of games hizo. You see, like high school, people follows the leader, wanafuata hiyo. At least kama head boy amesema kitu, you see people can follow.
Yeah, zinakuza member leadership, cause kuna programs wanapanga zinatusaidia si kama vijana, mambo na leadership hapo, kuongeongea nini. Yeah, kitu kingine wanapanga jobs. Kuna wanaita like youths, tunaongea nini tunaweza fanya, courses nini, unaona mambo kama hiyo. Sasa
kwa hakika taasisi nyingi vinakuza vipaji nyingi,
lakini haswa sisi tukiwa kama youth, pengine mimi ni miumbaji, nakosa ile support yenye mimi naweza pewa. Kama ni taasisi, mimi ningependa kusema kama ni taasisi, ule kijana ako pale atafutiwe venye anaweza kuza hicho kipaji chake.
Kwa maoni yangu unaona huwa inasaidia. Kuna wenye huwa nasaidikia tu hapo. Wengi wao.
Hii naweza sema inasaidia watoto kwa sababu wakati mtoto anakuwa mchanga anakuwa hana chochote Kenya anajua, lakini wakati mtoto venye anasomeshwa na mwalimu anakuwa na kipawa kingine cha kujua hali yake ya maisha yake na Kenya venye inaendelea. Na ningetaka sana vipaji vya watoto iwekelewe maanani sana, kwa sababu sisi vizazi ambazo tulikuwa hapo mbeleni hatukuwa tunajua umuhimu wa kipaji cha masomo. Lakini mtoto saizi kama hana masomo, hakuna kitu anaweza fanya katika nchi yake ama nchi nyingine ya nje. Ningesema walimu wawekwe bidii ndio waweze kukuza hizo vipaji za watoto, ndio watoto waweze kuwa na hekima ya vipaji zao. Na masomo ambayo inasomeshwa katika watoto wetu wa shule hii sasa, masomo ambayo iko mtoto angaliwe kipawa chake ni gani.
Shule za secondary ukiwa sema kuko na leadership wa darasa, ukipata kiranja yani, sasa unapata huyo lazima hata akikwambia leo lazima tufagie darasa, hiyo ni mfano, si ndivyo? Lazima tufagie, lazima utafuata. Juu unajua usipofuata hiyo leadership hapo lazima kuna changamoto zitatokea.
Well, thank you so much, Silas Chemining, also for getting us that particular area where we also see what do Kenyans, what does the Mwananchi think about the role of institutions, learning institutions in this particular case, in as far as nurturing leaders is concerned. And I'm also seeing quite a number of feedback here from our social media pages on Facebook. Can just sample a few before I give Dr. Ndungu to have a take on what maybe Kenyans are also saying, and also the point that he had. We have Patrick Mboma. The topic is very timely. A time has come for the young people to stand out and agitate for what is right. Thank God for CBET system that allows learners to gain skills and self-employment, at least to mobilize resources, to put leaders on their toes. This narrative from some leaders insinuating that agitators of good governance is a product of sponsorship is not only barbaric but also backward. The youth is now well empowered through technical and business training. Kudos to the panelists, Dr. Ndungu and Principal Paul Kamau. Then we also have Peter Isanda following keenly, Helen Wanjiro watching and loving this topic, Pakajo, keep it up. And then we also have Esther Lugosi tuned in from Joro. Great insights there from the Principal, Musketeers Institute of Science and Technology, on communication and integrity from leaders. These virtues need to be an integral component of the tertiary education. Thank you so much. Margaret Njeri, tuned from Kiambu, Larry. The topic is amazing. Say hi to my former Kiswahili teacher, Daktari Ndungu. Thank you so much. Then we also have Bob Liams. The notion of electing people because of money they have is what is causing us as a nation. Still more and more comments coming thick and fast. 23814 shortcut platform, 0721105105 for WhatsApp and also social media pages, Facebook MBCI TV, YouTube, that is MBCI TV official. Daktari, karibu.
Okay, thank you very much. Having listened to our viewers, yes, there is something that is coming out clearly across board, that our learning institutions do provide environment that is conducive for identification of leaders and nurturing them. That's right. What I'm getting. I want to say that there is a shift now with the current curriculum we are implementing now. That is the CBE. Okay. Competence-based education. It is de-emphasizing on exam, and emphasizing on experiential learning.
Right.
Now, I want to believe that we are getting it right, because with experiential learning, you expose learners to these projects where they do themselves. And by, you are able to identify leadership skills from these students. There is what we call mentorship and guidance. With this CBE curriculum, the teacher is only a facilitator to the learning process. Yeah. Now, in our curriculum, we teach about ethics, we teach about values, but at the national level, from the political leadership, we don't emphasize on our national ethos. For example, when we think about negative ethnicity, and I want to refer to the Gen Zs, and I am one person who believes in them. Because moving forward, because of the product of the curriculum, politics in this country will change, because it shall be politics of us versus them. I talked about using yesterday's mentality to solve contemporary issues. Now, a leader should be approachable. Mwalimu has just mentioned that we should be able to respect each one of us' opinions. We should be able to accommodate one another, because we hold divergent views, ideologies. But you find that the political class has actually conditioned us in a certain way. Allow me just to draw an example from our political class, because I want to blame the political class. Because theirs is about their own interest and survival. We no longer speak about issues, but thank God the Gen Zs are speaking about issues. Now, I don't want to mention this person whom they are thinking that could be the next president. And if you know that person whom they were thinking could be the president, I came to analyze and concluded, so our learners love somebody who is strict. Why? They are a product of a strict person. They are a product of somebody who emphasizes on integrity in terms of their results, that you get what you have worked for. Okay. That is what the young people are telling us. Look at what they have told the president. We don't want recycled leaders. They have said we want technocrats. Now, let's go to our third president, in whom all of us is very proud, with the late Mwai Kibaki. Mwai Kibaki brought a culture of meritocracy. He went to the University of Nairobi, got the best economist, and brought him on board. He went to the University of Egerton University, brought the best agricultural economist, and brought him close to him. Because education is just a driver, is a facilitator. Education trains us communication, ethics, about the issue of resilience, adaptability, how do you solve issues. So I want to say now, with the CBE, we are getting it right. And moving forward, we are going to have a crop of new leaders that believes in themselves. If the Gen Zs could say we want this very person to be the next president, I want to believe Paul and Mwalimu, you'll agree with me, that human beings are rational beings. They can reason, as Mwalimu said, and everybody would want to have order. So I think a time has come, we have to accept that this conversation is live. And they say that conversation is a product of our mind. So if we speak and we condemn some of these vices, nepotism, negative ethnicity, because our politicians have thrived in negative ethnicity for their own interest and survival.
Thank you so much, Daktari. Very valid and indeed eye-opener point there. We want to take another short segment, but Mwalimu Kamau, we also talk about, just as Daktari has said, and do you believe that in our learning institutions, just like the Gen Zs are telling us that they're tribeless, of course, the issue of them being leaderless was criticized a lot. Whether we should have a leader. But the issue of tribeless, I think that most people actually were very, very proud of. And at our learning institutions, do you really believe that when we are there as the students, or when the students are there as learners, some of these issues that have been a major stumbling block in our country, like the issue of tribalism, do you believe that this is something that is not a major issue, is not a disaster in our learning institutions? Talk of vices like corruption, which has really affected us as a society. Do you believe that this is a vice that we can actually say it is not a disaster in our learning institutions? You'll be able to tell us about that. But let's just have that segment on prominent faces and see what Kagi has prepared us, or has prepared for us for today.
Mr. Prime Minister, I got lost in words. I'm here to give you
Today's prominent faces, we feature Abiy Ahmed, Ethiopia's Prime Minister. The current Prime Minister of Ethiopia, Abiy Ahmed, was born on August 15, 1976 in Beshasha, Ethiopia. His father, Ahmed Ali, was a Muslim, and his mother, Tezita Wolde, a Christian. As a child, he attended primary school in Beshasha and secondary school in nearby Agaro. As a teen in 1990, he joined the rebels fighting Dag regime who were controlling Ethiopia at the time. After the Dag were overthrown in 1987, Abiy joined the Ethiopian National Defense Forces and rose in the ranks to lieutenant colonel. He served as a peacekeeping officer for the United Nations in Rwanda from 1995 to 1997. When he returned to Ethiopia in 1998, he continued his education, earning a bachelor's degree in computer engineering. In 2007, Ahmed was made head of the Information Network Security Agency, which is responsible for government cybersecurity. In 2010, he was elected to the House of People's Representatives, the national legislature, to represent his home region.
I stand here in front of you talking about peace because of faith. I crawled my way to peace through the dusty trenches of war years ago. I was a young soldier when war broke out between Ethiopia and Eritrea. I witnessed firsthand the ugliness of war in frontline battles. There are those who have never seen war but glorify and romanticize it. They have not seen the fear. They have not seen the fatigue. They have not seen the destruction or heartbreak, nor have they felt the mournful impotence of war after the carnage.
In 2011, he was awarded a master's degree in transformational leadership and earned a second master's in 2013. In 2017, he was awarded a PhD from Addis Ababa University. In 2016, Ahmed was appointed to the position of Minister of Science and Technology in Ethiopian government. In February of 2018, when Prime Minister Haile Mariam Desalegn resigned, Ahmed was elected Prime Minister by the House of People's Representative in April 2018. He was the first member of the Oromo ethnic group, that is, the largest ethnic group in Ethiopia, to hold the position. At the age of 42, Prime Minister Ahmed embarked on radical changes in Ethiopia. Many people who were arrested for political reasons by the former regime were freed. He invited opposition figures in exile to return and encouraged foreign investment to boost economic growth.
They harvest the abundance of their fields. Before we can harvest peace dividends, we must plant seeds of love, forgiveness, and reconciliation in the hearts and minds of our citizens. We must pull out the weeds of discord, hate, and misunderstanding, and toil every day during good and bad days too. I am inspired by a biblical scripture which reads, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God." Equally,
the first woman president, Saleh Workzed, was appointed and Ahmed's cabinet was gender balanced. He lifted restrictions on the media, encouraging a freer press, and fostered national unity while celebrating the diversity of Ethiopians' many ethnic, linguistic, cultural, and religious groups. In 2018, Ahmed ended the 20-year war with neighboring Eritrea when he accepted the results of a border mediation recommendation and met with the president of Eritrea, Isaias Afwerki. On July 9, 2018, the two countries announced that the state of war between them had ended, and as a result, Ahmed was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 2019 for his efforts at peace building. Ahmed's national policies did not always have the intended effect. In some areas, ethnic tensions were exacerbated and there were political tensions within the ruling party. In 2019, when he attempted to reshape the Ethiopian People Revolutionary Democratic Front into a new political party, the Prosperity Party, some groups resisted. The Tigray People's Liberation Front, which controlled Tigray province, resisted Ahmed's efforts, resulting in armed conflict beginning in November 2020. The conflict continues to this day with thousands killed, many more displaced, or contending with famine on both sides of the conflict. Abiy Ahmed, 46, is married to a noted Ethiopian gospel singer Zinash Tayeshu. They are Pentecostal Christians and have 3 daughters and 1 son. That's it for today's Prominent Faces. My name is Faith Mwema.
Wow, that's a beautiful segment there on Prominent Faces, Kagi.
Yes. Yes, and one of the reasons why this guy won the Nobel Peace Prize is because of his effort to reconcile the Ethiopians and Eritreans.
Okay.
And it was a very, very aggressive war, but he managed it. Yeah, and he has really made it possible. You know, for 1 year, Ethiopia was in demonstrations and war without media covering because of lack of media freedom.
Yes.
And he managed to control that when the former prime minister resigned. But today he is proud of his work as a young leader.
Wow.
Yes.
And I'm also very interested in that he's able also to embrace, I think, different religions.
Very true.
Cultures. Yeah.
True.
I know
the father was a Muslim.
Yes.
And the father was the mother was a Christian, the father was a Muslim.
Sure.
That one calls for religious tolerance.
Exactly.
That's what we were saying, that in democracy we are able to actually respect somebody's opinion. You are able to actually support one another despite of the tribe. Actually being coming from where I come from, of course my name betrays me. But that's not a problem. That's not a problem. Mangicho, if you're coming from another tribe, we should have some unity in diversity.
And that needs to be our strength.
That should be our strength. But the problem in our country is negative ethnicity.
Exactly.
And that's why somebody mentioned that we need, I agree with Goyo and Diongo, that we need to decolonize our minds. That if I come from this religious background, I should have a different belief about this person. This one is a human being created in God's image. So if we have tolerance, if we have patience with one another, if we can unite in our diversity, I think we can move this forward. And that's why in our institutions, for example, in primary schools and secondary schools, why do we have our learners putting on uniform? Because uniform, actually Nelson Mandela said that education is the best equalizer. It does not matter where you come from, but what now comes on board is education that equalizes you. If you come from South Nyanza, I come from Central Kenya, if the other one comes from Coast, education equalizes. And now when it comes to public appointment, it should be on merit. Now I've looked at those prominent faces. I've seen Sarif Johnson of Liberia. She's a woman. We mentioned about Nelson Mandela. What did Nelson Mandela say? When he was actually imprisoned at Robben Island for 27 years. He said that I choose to forgive because if I don't forgive, I will be in prison. Are our leaders good at forgiving, or we revisit? Look at what happened in the last dispensation.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Dr. Maybe just in a minute or two, what do you think about of course, now this is what we heard from Gen Zs, and of course, maybe what most people would imagine is happening at learning institutions, but maybe unfortunately we don't see the same translating now to the same people that were in these learning institutions. Now when they're maybe at these other levels, they're not putting into consideration, or they're not now applying what they were applying. Like for example, the issue of being tribal is not necessarily caring which tribe you come from, the issue of maybe corruption and so on and so forth.
Okay, thank you very much. I think I'll go back to some background. I was taught about this Gen Z revolution a long time ago when I was in high school, under mentorship of one Bishop Francis Moya Kirangi. I would want to mention him. That time he was our principal in high school. And at some point we said we didn't want a certain teacher because we thought he was not taking us in the right direction. He was not giving us what we came to school to get. And actually, he changed that teacher. He listened to us, and he allowed us also to guide him in some way. And we were students that time. And you know, our time, it was not easy. It was not like now. So I really would want to mention that as an appreciation, because that is what has made me bring what I brought to Musketeers Institute of Science and Technology. If you may allow me, at this point, to talk about what are we doing at Musketeers Institute of Science and Technology to ensure that now we get the right leadership. One of the things that we do, which is very easy, we have allowed the students to have WhatsApp groups. This is a time of democracy. They have WhatsApp groups per department, and then in these WhatsApp groups, I am there, but I don't. They're allowed to say anything. They can even communicate past midnight and all that, saying whatever they want to say. And they can raise an issue there. When they raise an issue in that WhatsApp group, it is not for me to gag them. It is for me to follow and find out what exactly is that is ailing them. Let me give a very simple example. Like a student can come and use a very bad language and say that maybe we have never had Wi-Fi in this school, for example. Okay, Wi-Fi is there, but maybe it's not doing very well. The student maybe doesn't know how to communicate that. And they put it in any language, and that is what we allow them. They put it in language one, we know the Wi-Fi is not working. If the Wi-Fi is not working, yes, we need to work on that. We also need to call on this leader. This is a leader who is saying that Wi-Fi is not there, but they don't know how to communicate. So we call them and train them on how to communicate. Okay. We're getting that. And why I wanted to take you back to Gen Zs, they were saying they are leaderless because they were fearing, because they know these guys know. You strike the leader and the others are finished. So they don't want, nobody wants to say that I'm the leader. because they know if I say I'm the leader, maybe somebody will strike me. Because that is what the colonialists used to do. They come and strike the chief, then the other people are finished.
So what we are trying to do is to ensure that these people are able to communicate their thought openly and effectively. Sometimes the problem that we may have with young people is the way they say it. For example, recently they got into parliament and tried to ban parliament. Yes, somebody was very annoyed and was very bitter that somebody is trying to ban parliament. Others were barring their people with the Kenyan flag, which is not a good thing. But actually, why are they doing it? They are leaders, but they don't know how to communicate. So we need to help these people in our learning institutions so that we can help them to be able to communicate what is in their head. And when they communicate, we should show them that we are not there to tell them you cannot say that. Because there is what they can bring on board that will help us, yes, that will help us to be able to move in the right direction. So what I'm trying to say is, you see, like that young man, let me call him young man, the Prime Minister, Ethiopian Prime Minister. You see the changes he has been able to bring. It started somewhere. He joined some military something. He started from somewhere. He started speaking his mind, and because there was nobody to listen to him, that is why he had now to start using some kind of violence. But if we listen to our people, for example, if our president listens to the Gentis and does some of the things that they have asked to, I've not seen something that is unreasonable. If he does that, do you think they are going back? They will go back to the street?
Thank you, Weli. Wow, it's a very, very nice conversation you're having. Only that time is really disappointing us. But of course, we also have a segment on Know Your Constituency. Before we bring this into a close, let's watch where we are going today in Know Your Constituency. Good, so today it's all the way to the coast, and we are having Undanyi constituency, an electoral constituency in Kenya, one of the 4 constituencies in Taita Taveta County, established for the first time in 1966 elections. The current member of parliament there is Hon Danson Mwashako Mwakuona. That is the current MP for Undanyi constituency. We have previous MPs or former MPs. 1966, Dawson Mwanyumba. 1969, Jackson L.M. Shako. 1974, Dawson Mwanyumba. 1979, Mborio Mashengu Mwachofi. 1983, Mborio Mashengu Mwachofi again. 1988, Darius Msagambela. 1992, Darius Msagambela. Coming again in 1997, Darius Msagambela. 2002, J.D. Muganga Mwandawiro. 2007, Thomas Ludindi Mwadegu. 2013, Thomas Ludindi Mwadegu. Then in 2017, Danson Mwashako Mwakuona. And of course, that is 2017. And of course, 2022 again, that is Danson Mwashako. Then the words that we're having there is Mwanda, Mugange, we have Weruga, we have Wumingu, Kishushe, and then of course we also have Undanyi stroke Mbale. Those are the words in Undanyi constituency. What is the economic activity here? Crop farming, mining, and also livestock keeping. So they do crop farming, mining, and also livestock keeping. Kagi, at least now you know something about Undanyi constituency.
That name sounds to be from Western region. Yes. But 2 guys there, Darius Mbela was very popular as minister in Moi's government, and also Mwandawiro, who was one of the agitators of the democracy in our country.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And of course,
even Mwachofi, Mashengu Mwachofi, he was one of the Mwakenya group. He was very vocal.
He was very vocal.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Let's have our leadership quote before we give our guests a few seconds just to wrap up. Our leadership quote goes like this: we need leaders not in love with justice. If we could have it again. We need leaders not in love with justice, not in love with publicity, but in love with humanity. We need leaders not in love with justice, not in love with publicity, but in love with humanity. Martin Luther King Jr. Daktari, what your take on that quote is?
Thank you. When we have humanity in mind, we shall be able to have effective and efficient leaders. Allow me to mention that whatever that is happening in our country, Kenya, is a product of our education system that has to do with the young people. This is not something that is very new. It happened in 1907 in Russia. It happened in Russia during the Bolshevik Revolution. It happened in France in 1968 and 1975. It happened in South Africa during the Sharperville massacre and the Soweto uprising. So it is happening in Kenya. Some of the changes we have had in the world, these changes have been brought up by young people. Young people that have been taught critical thinking. They have learned ethics and morality. They have learned the issue of through mentorship and guidance. So whatever that is happening, it's possible, it must be done, it can be achieved, it will be achieved. Effective leadership.
Thank you so much, Daktari. When a Principal Musketeers Institute.
Thank you very much. I think from that quote, in humanity, there is no tribalism, there is no racism, there is integrity. So if we have leaders who are in love with humanity, then it means we are going to have a better world.
Wow. Thank you so much. Our two guests for today, that is Bwana Paul Kamau, the Principal Musketeers Institute of Science and Technology. We appreciate your insights, your contribution in this particular program.
Thank you very much.
Of course, Daktari Ndungu Kenyoi from Masai Mara University, that's our governance political analyst. Thank you so much for your time and your very, very illuminating contribution.
Thank you for having me on board.
Thank you so much. And of course, that is where we bring it to a close for today. We also appreciate your time and also so many of your feedback in this particular topic. We'll do it again next week at the same time. My name is Mangi Chomola. Enjoy the rest of your viewing.
Thank you for watching our program this morning. I wish you a blessed day ahead. On Friday, God willing, Men Matters Friday. Bye for now.